When I got home from work today, I had this message on Facebook from this guy I used to know in high school. At one point, he was one of my, I would say, best friends. I don't know what he ever thought of me, but basically what it was is I got to high school and I still had all these friends from grade school that my interests were rapidly kind of diverging from. I didn't really relate to them anymore. So I had to meet new people, and he was one of the first new people that I met and really kind of connected with. We had a class together, we had communications together, and worked on a lot of projects. And we just had a very similar set of interests and worldview and whatnot, and I liked hanging out with him. And he had a group of friends all set up, and I sort of integrated myself in with them. But I never really felt like I was part of it, to be honest. I was very insecure, and I just felt like all my friendships were really tenuous, and people could decide at any moment that they were going to get sick of me and, stop wanting to be my friend. I was a very emotional, sensitive kid back then, not in the good way, where I was sensitive to others, sensitive in the way that, when I was very easily hurt, and what happened was that after a few years, after we worked on one major project, it all kind of came to that. Like, we had a blow-up. A huge one. He basically came on MSN, which was the mode of communication back then, and bitched me out for a bunch of slights that were real or imagined. It doesn't really matter, but I hadn't noticed anything wrong. He didn't signify to me that I was doing anything wrong. He decided he had had enough of me, and it hurt. It hurt really badly, quite honestly. He, in no uncertain terms, ended our friendship. And I say this because when someone says something like that and reveals that side of themselves to me, then I'm very severe in my desire to not have anything to do with them either, Like, as much as I was afraid of losing his friendship and, like, the tenuous connection we had, once he kind of signified that he had problems with me, I was like, fine, fuck it, we're done. And I found a whole other group of people to hang out with, And even though we kind of smoothed things over, even in the weeks after this whole thing, even in the immediate aftermath, things were never the same. You couldn't unring that bell, basically. He had shown that kind of side to him, that he had all that, within his capacity. And, if he ever wanted to be friends with me again, if I ever wanted to be friends with him again, it just couldn't happen. It was over. So, even though at one point we had many mutual friends and went our separate ways, and I didn't really talk to him if I could avoid it for many years afterwards. So, during the time when we were still friends, I had lent him a whole bunch of comics. Jeff Smith Bone trade paperbacks, basically. Because I was into sharing things with people, and I thought it was a really impressive piece of work. I wanted to spread it around. And I initially gave them to a mutual friend of ours, and they found their way to him, and I didn't have a problem with that because we were all buds. But obviously, this ended up happening, and the comics never got back to me. And I mean, it bothered me, but I didn't, fight about it, because I just thought, well, take it on the chin for that one. And I think he always kind of denied even having them. I don't know what the fuck he thought happened, but I was positive that the chain of events led to him having them. So he messaged me today saying that he was cleaning up his parents' house, and lo and behold, there they were. So he sends me this very conciliatory, message where he actually referred to himself as having been a shithead, which is nice, and offers to bring them back, and, if he wants to if I would be interested in catching up, because, it's brought up whatever memories, old times, and whatnot. And I told him, sure, like, I don't really have any ill will towards him. Fuck, it was 8 years ago that all this happened. You know, as much as I don't think we'll be best buds anytime soon, there's absolutely no reason I need to hold it against him. It's just that, I know what I'm like and I know what he's like. And I can apologize, and I can have a beer with him and whatnot. Maybe, but, that's it. I guess. But I think it's good for the soul to kind of like let these things happen. Like, on the one hand, part of me is actually kind of bitter about what he pulled all those years ago. And even if he feels bad, even if he apologizes, even if he's completely reformed, I don't know. It stung. On the other hand, what the fuck does it mean for my life? It was all those years ago. Why should it stay in the way of anything? Of me getting on with my fucking existence. The main thing, though, is that other than a few select people who really know what's up with me, I'm not sure I love the idea of meeting up with people from high school. Just purely based on the fact that how my life has progressed since then doesn't feel impressive to me, It doesn't feel like I have much to show for myself. And I'm very self-conscious about that. I wish I had more to say for myself then. I still live in our hometown, and I work at the mall, and I write sometimes. And it's something I've talked about recently, is that's a motivating factor. That's a huge motivating factor for me in what I've recently been doing, and why I've been turbocharged in my creative efforts, but that still hasn't come to anything yet. But I agreed to meet him just as a show of goodwill, just kind of a bury the hatchet kind of thing. Because, I don't want to seem like I'm even justified in holding a grudge against him. Personally, I know that some of the complaints that he had about me back then were kind of valid. I was a very moody and difficult to deal with person that didn't always deserve people's friendship or patience. I would appreciate it. I feel like very good people were good enough to be quite patient with me over the years, and he just wasn't. And that's because of the personality clash between the two of us. No harm done. But if he's happy, if he's gone on in his life, with his pattern of behavior, and is happy with himself, then good for him. And if he hasn't, if he's really changed his ways, found a new way, which I feel like I have, I've made an effort to change certain things about myself, then I'd be happy to hear that too. But there's no reason you should let the past sort of loom over you like that. As much as I spent, 8 minutes now, rambling about it, there's no reason it should dominate any decision you make in your life. It's the fucking past, man. It can't hurt you. It's in a box. Under your bed. Or on your shelf. It's gone. And that's what's kind of been on my mind tonight. That's kind of what set off my mind and made me unable to focus. So I just thought really hard, because I thought a long time before I responded to this offer. Just because, not on the question of forgiving and forgetting, but on the question of, what do I have to show for myself? And I guess I still don't have a really good answer for that, but we'll deal with that when it comes to it. We will deal with that. And I guess that kind of empties me out for tonight, and I'm glad that I did this. I don't know if you're glad that you listened, because what the fuck am I rambling about, but that's what it is.